Hello, welcome back. And so we're back to the HP Pavilion that I found outside my front door. And yeah, so I have my screwdriver loaded up with, let's see if we can maybe get that to focus. Come on. Yeah, whatever. Oh, that's the wrong one. Whatever. The point is it's a T15 torque. Security torque or whatever specific thing it's called. And let's get this CPU cooler off. In terms of this motherboard, the only thing that's actually in here that's of any value, if the whole system is to just be scrapped, the only thing that might actually still be worth something is the CPU, depending on if it's rusted or not. So I'm just hoping that the CPU cooler did a good job of protecting the CPU. And I am, of course, just doing a few twists. I don't have an exact methodology when it comes to this. Just gotta make sure that you don't do it all on one side, or else it could cause it could possibly crack the die, the IHS. So, and it looks like there's still a lot more left to do in terms of unscrewing. But let's give this a quick. Okay. There's still a lot more unscrewing to do. Come on, focus. There we go. Oh, that was a sound. That one might be all the way out now. Just gotta make sure that you don't. That one might also be out now. You don't do it all at once. That's the key. Let's see. That looks like it might be all the way off now. Let's unplug the CPU power, the fan power. Come on. Can't get it. That's disgusting. That's the top part of the case. You can't really see it, but it's dusty and disgusting. Let's see about possibly using this pair of anti-static tweezers. At least they claim to be anti-static tweezers. I don't know what about them makes them anti-static, but they're supposedly anti-static tweezers. Let's see if we can just, I don't know, grab it and twist to remove, perhaps. Come on. It's not really working. I'm just gonna beast mode it. There we go. There we go. Alright, cooler's all the way off. And that is some very dry thermal paste, which isn't necessarily the fault of the thermal paste. To be fair, it's been sitting outside in the elements for many months. I don't know how long it's been sitting out there, but it's certainly been quite a while. At least a few months. At least 3, but not entirely sure. One of the things I was wondering about with this cooler is whether I can reuse it if the CPU is okay and the motherboard is salvageable. And I was worried that the aluminum might be rusted, but looking it over, it just seems like it's mostly just dirty. So it looks like it might actually be okay. There's some rust inside the screw holes, but that could just be cleaned up. Other than some rust on the actual screws themselves, or like the drivers for the mounting, it seems to be okay. So that one might be able to be reused. Looking at the CPU itself, I'm seeing a lot of rust, potentially, or mold, or something. No, that's not good. I'm not entirely confident anymore that this is going to even work. Well, let me put my screwdriver down. Let's extract this CPU and not drop it. Well, the good news is the back looks marvelous. Let me put this back into a normal lens. Maybe that will help. That looks very marvelous, very clean. The front side is kind of disgusting. If I can get it to focus. Well, can't really seem to get it to focus. But just trust me when I say that it's interestingly more greasy than anything else. But that might be able to be cleaned up, actually. It's more just grimy. There it is. Now it's focusing. Oh, there we go. It's more just grimy. But what I'm more worried about, or was more worried about, was the backside. It looks like as long as the IHS hasn't been breached and the internal has been filled with gunk, it should be just fine, presumably. Which would be nice because, yeah, it's not a terrible CPU. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible. I must admit I don't even remember what CPU it is, but I think it's an i7 7400K, I think is what it is. I'm just going to put that right there. Yeah, looking in the socket, the pins appear to be good. The pins look fine. Actually, this looks like it is just fine, actually, which is good. I don't really mind if this board is trash because it's just some stupid OEM board. And if you don't know anything about OEM boards there, no, just don't. Don't game on an OEM board. And when I say that, I mean don't buy OEMs. Like, don't buy for gaming anything by Acer, HP, or Dell. Maybe Lenovo. Maybe. Possibly. I mean, I don't know much about Lenovo specifically, but like with HP, especially with HP and Dell, and yeah, I guess also Acer. But I know that HP and Dell have their like gaming lineups. For Dell, it's the like the Alienware thing, or at least that's one of their product lines. And for HP, it's this Pavilion thing. At least that's one of their product lines. And no, you don't really want to buy those computers and game on them in the first place. But if you do, you certainly don't want to just use the motherboard. And you don't want to use it because it's basically purposely made to be bad. Because if it weren't purposely made to be bad, you wouldn't want to upgrade and buy their expensive upgrades. The whole idea is that you buy the baseline product with no upgrades and you say, oh my god, this is horrible. I need an upgrade. And you realize, oh, that's interesting. This standard MATX motherboard form factor only has 2 slots. Now, I'm not saying that all MATX motherboards have 4 slots, but most of them do. Oh, look at that. There's only one PCI Express 16 and one PCI Express 1. It just seems like they're purposely making these boards to be difficult to upgrade in the future. And I mean, if you missed the first video I made about this thing, I mean, look at that I/O. Legitimately only two USBs. And 2 USB 2.0s, 2 USB 3.0s, 2 HDMI ports, audio, and Ethernet 1.0, or 1 gigabit per second. And then on the front, only one additional USB. It's not even a USB 3.0, so USB 2.0, USB Type-C, and a card reader. I mean, that's just sad. Really, really sad. Anyways, the last thing I want to do in this video, before I actually clean up the motherboard itself, so with all that being said, it's not like I'm doing this because I actually want to game on this thing or anything. It's more just for fun, just to see if I can do it. It's more just like a project. I wouldn't actually want to use this thing legitimately, which is why when I am when I've completed it, or if I fail and the motherboard is trash, I'm just going to sell it for whatever I get for it. If I'm lucky, I'll break even. No, it's not something I'm expecting to make money on. So if you're going to think about writing a comment like, well, if you just said I wouldn't game on this thing, why are you doing this? It's for fun. Just to see if I can get this thing to be as gaming ready as it can be. I mean, it's still like trying to polish a turd. Like, sure, you can polish the turd, but why? You can make the turd very shiny, but why would you want to do that? That's kind of how this thing reminds me of it. Yeah, it's just not good. But I'm just seeing if I can polish that turd. I'm going to remove the Wi-Fi card. As you can tell from the previous video and just right now, there's rust on it. And that is the rustiest M.2 screw I have ever seen. Look at this M.2 screw. Focus. Come on. Well, you can probably, there it is. This is the nice thing about manual focus. There we go. Look at that. That is a very rusty M.2 screw. But hey, it works. And then let's extract this little Wi-Fi card. Alright. Let's look around the back, and it's quite clean as you'd expect. There are actually very few pins on the back. Focus. Actually, I think I can just tap on the phone screen and it will focus. That's like a crazy feature, right? It's not really working now. Well, whatever. The point is there are not very many pins on the back. And, yeah, look at all that rust. This thing might still work. Yeah, it might clean up just fine and still work. Truth be told, though, I don't really care if I can get it working. If I were to try and polish this turd, aka get it gaming ready, well, as gaming ready as it would ever get, I would not use the Wi-Fi card anyways, because I find Wi-Fi in full-size desktop computers to be kind of gimmicky. I would see if I can, in this A key, M.2 A key, I would try and put like a little 128 gigabyte or something boot SSD, just to make it a lot faster. I fully plan to get an SSD for it, for like gaming and whatnot, as part of the polishing of said turd. But I do not intend to actually have Wi-Fi on it. I think you can get storage mechanisms for M.2 A keys. I don't see why you wouldn't. The only thing I'm worried about with that is that if I understand this chip correctly, which I'm not entirely sure if I do, having not really researched it that much, you will notice that on this, let's see if I can focus it. From what I understand about the way these Wi-Fi cards work, fuck it, whatever. I'm going to figure out how this works with the whole focusing thing. Maybe it's a distance thing. Maybe I should zoom in or something. I don't know. The point is that I'm just using my phone. The point is that if I understand these things correctly, they only have one PCI Express lane, which means, and modern M.2 NVMe drives have like 4 PCI Express lanes. So it might actually be very, very slow and really not worth bothering with. But I'll have to do some research on that. Yeah. If I can't get any sort of storage for it to work, I'll probably put something else in there. Maybe like an additional, I've seen cards like this where you plug it into those slots and they give you additional SATA ports. Because this thing only has 3 SATA ports, which is, well, truth be told, it's just sad. 3 SATA ports is really not a lot. Did I bring it down with me? I discovered, actually, fun thing is, well, I don't know where I put it, but I noticed on the front that there's a missing drive bay, well, for the disc reader. And what's interesting is that in my sister's car just randomly appeared this thin, ultra thin disc reader. And so I was wondering what it was and where it came from when I realized, and when it dawned on me, when I read it and it says HP, and I realized, oh, that's this thing's disc reader. So I now have the disc reader for the system. Not that I'm going to use it anyways, because honestly, even if you do occasionally use CDs, I don't know why anyone puts a full-size disc reader in their computer anymore. Because even if, unless you're like really old and you're legitimately only using the computer for like taxes and word processing or whatever, I don't know. But with something like this is like $30 or whatever it was, and this is a portable disc reader. It's with something like this, I don't see why you'd ever put a full-size disc reader in your computer anymore. Given that it takes up a lot of space, increases the weight, and uses one of your available SATA ports, which for most computers, maybe not a problem. But for something like this, you only have 3 of these things available by default. And I don't really want to use one of those ports to, I don't really want to use one of those ports to use a disc reader. I'd rather free it up for something else, something I think more important. You see, this is what I'm talking about. I'm looking at the SATA ports and I'm thinking, why are there only 3? And I'm looking carefully at the traces, and I notice that it would appear that there is room for another one. It looks like they just chose not to put one there because I guess the upgraded models have increased SATA capacity. More SATA ports. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about when it comes to why you really don't want to game on an OEM system integrator board, something like this. Because they artificially limit the features of what you get. Sword, by the way. They artificially limit what you can get so that you're tempted to buy the more advanced option. Yeah. Anyways. I'm rambling, and it's late at night. I should probably go to bed soon. So, but yeah, I was just going to remove those 2 things and look at them, and I'm fairly confident about the CPU. I don't see why the CPU couldn't work if I were to just give it some cleanup with some rubbing alcohol. And in terms of the Wi-Fi card, it's a little bit rusty, but with some little bit of steel wool or something, and some petroleum jelly, I think I could get it working quite well as well. It probably works already, but I could make it a lot prettier. You don't really want rusting components within a computer. It's not really a good thing, honestly. So yeah, I think all that's left to do with this computer is to basically clean all the components, which is the CPU, Wi-Fi card, and the motherboard, and then transfer it over to a different case. I actually have this case right here. It's the Thermaltake Versa H17. So I think I could actually build this system in there if I wanted, just for fun, of course. Still, remember, polishing a turd. A turd is still a turd, even if you polish it. Anyways, that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time. In terms of the system, next time will be when I have cleaned up the CPU, cleaned up the motherboard, cleaned up the Wi-Fi chip, and then put a power supply. In that case, I'm just going to basically, once I remove this motherboard from this case and the fan and clean those up, I'm just going to throw away the case because, yeah, it's mangled and has sharp edges, and I don't really want to have to deal with making this thing safe to work with. Also, it's disgustingly filthy. Yeah, I don't see a reason to continue to use this case other than that it has the front I/O. I mean, sure, this board isn't as bad as something like some of those Dell motherboards. I think Dell loves to do this specifically, where they'll make the motherboard a really weird form factor by extending the front I/O as part of the board to make sure you can never reuse the motherboard again. It's just disgusting. But this is kind of in a similar way. I mean, if you'll notice, unlike on most systems, the front I/O connects to the motherboard in a very standard way. But if you look here, it's actually soldered to this motherboard, or this daughter board, I guess is what it is. Soldered to this PCB, so you can't reuse it. So if you want to get rid of this rather sad front I/O, you have to throw away all of these cables, which maybe not be a bad idea anyways. They're kind of stiff and filthy, but it's still annoying. Anyways, I'll talk to you later.